I think the first thing I want to ask you is that this is something you've tweeted about quite often, is that you currently reading or have recently finished the book Range, right, by David Epstein, right? And I also know that you're building building the right product and engineering team is a core focus of yours leading into 2021, right? And keeping the generalist and specialist debate in mind, as an early stage startup founder, what kind of a team do you envision BimaPe to have?
Yeah, I think so. When you sort of start out with like an early stage team, you try to make sure that you want to move fast, but you also don't want to sacrifice quality. So you try to look for people who meet the right now bill rather than the right bill. So spending 6 months to find your next engineering hire probably will not work too well when you're a direct to consumer fintech, right? You have to move a bit faster. So one of the things you sort of try to look for is this a person whom you feel if the company explodes at scale will has like this one core skill which the organization can always benefit from, right? So this is what people describe as a T-shaped person. So you're fairly good with a number of skills, so you can work at an early stage company, right? You've got a baseline of knowledge across a couple of things. But then there's one real vertical where you are an absolute pro, or maybe close to being a pro, and if the company scales, you can focus on that one thing which you're a pro at. And that's one lens you'd probably take when you're structuring that early product engineering organization. The other thing is you'll obviously come across a lot of people, great pedigree, etc., etc. But you do want to also optimize for the person who's almost got the profile, is hungry, wants to learn. And I've typically found like those sort of people work incredibly hard and tend to overachieve. And one of the reasons for it is an early stage startup journey is a little like Brownian motion and not like a straight line. So you want to have people who've also wandered around a little bit in their career. So they're comfortable with this whole ups and downs, mix and match of a startup journey. So we have some engineers who are probably right now responding to email support tickets from customers. A Google engineer may not want to do that, right? Because they say, no, I want to write code, I want to write elegant code, I only write elegant code. Probably not going to work if you're a direct to consumer fintech company. That's just the one thing I would say, right? Is look beyond, someone's sort of GitHub repository, look beyond where they've worked. Just try to see how they are as a person. So if you're recruiting, give people written tasks to do. So at BimaPay, we start out, after seeing whatever nonsense they send us in an email, which we don't wait a lot. We ask them to fill in like a 10-minute survey form, which allows us to learn a little bit about who they are as a person, what they do in their free time, how have they responded to feedback in the past, have they given anyone feedback in the past, new skill that they've picked up, how do they teach themselves. That just gives you a feel of what kind of soft skills they have for the workplace. And the final step after doing that video interview with the team, right? So not just me, but pretty much the whole team, is to then put them through a actual assignment. So if it's an engineering thing, you give them like a take home assignment, give them a certain amount of time. But I cannot emphasize like how important it is for every hire you put through in the first 10 to 15 people to be not only someone who's technically qualified, but also someone who you're really comfortable spending like a solid 13 to 14 hours a day with. Because if you find them annoying for whatever reason, or you feel they're like a toxic person in the workplace, right? You've just killed the company at the start itself.
Absolutely.
That's a long-winded answer, but we can jump into a couple more things in detail if you'd
No,
like.
I think the first thing you mentioned about how a Google employee would not be comfortable working in such a scenario, and I think the one thing that comes to my mind over here is that you know, I mean, it's a pretty indirect example. It's an indirect example, but if you look at data science, right? I think anyone who actually practices data science, they'll tell you that 80% of data science is just cleaning the data, right? Because you're gonna get data
Mm-hmm.
points from various places. You have to clean that information, and then you can process that and actually get valuable insights from that. And I think that 80%, that cleaning the data, that is something that isn't theoretical, that is practical in nature, right? If you've been around to a couple of places, you pick that skill up. If you've worked as an engineer in at a variety of places, at early stage places before, so you know that things will never be organized, things will be chaotic in nature, but you just have to adjust to that chaos and flow with it, rather than keep
Yeah.
fighting it, and just be always be that, not be able to just mold yourself when it comes to a situation of the sorts. I think that's
Yeah.
what matters. I think that's what you're trying to look for, right? You want to look for the
Yeah.
people who are able to mold with the situation, mold with the ups and downs, and then just keep moving forward of the sorts.
Yeah. Exactly. So I think within the company, we describe this as we're looking for a systems focused engineer, not a process focused engineer. And what we mean by a systems focused engineer is you're willing to get in there when there is no system, create the system, right? So whether it's creating the database architecture, understanding the customer's job to be done, the company's objective, and deciding how to structure whatever piece of internal architecture you're working on, right? Whether it's the usage data, whether it's the developer logs. And if you're willing to get in there, build a system and help other people understand why your system makes sense, early stage is the perfect place to be, right? Because it's high ownership. I wouldn't say high pressure, but high pain because you're building 0 to 1. But if you're a process person who likes to say, okay, I want to have someone clean the data for me, give me the data in this format, I want to then run the models on it. Probably later stage company or maybe established company is the way to go. And there are different
Absolutely.
kinds of people, right? People at different points in their career will also be at different places in that spectrum.
I
You want
think,
to
yeah.
look
I
for
think
someone who's more,
if you're young and if you're young, you're hungry, you can work in that early stage. But as you like, when that age factor pops in, you want more security, more stability. I think so. Yeah, I think there are a couple of trade-offs you look at. When it comes to people, and companies look at when it comes to people, and people when they look at companies. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for this episode. The Indianaut podcast is available on YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook to receive all updates on the upcoming episodes. We'll see you in the next one. Thank you.